3, 2, 1.
Welcome to the Fourth Line Podcast, part of Full Press Radio. This is June 28th, 2021. With you today is myself, Carl, and Stevie Nick.
June 28th, also known as the Game 1 of the 2021 Stanley Cup Finals. The first time we see a Canadian team in the Stanley Cup Finals since...
Vancouver
2011. It's been 10 years.
Vancouver 2011. Before that, another Canadian team.
Calgary?
Against the Tampa Bay Lightning.
Was it Calgary?
It was Calgary.
That was 2003?
I want to say 2004.
Okay, you could be right. Somewhere in there anyways.
And I want to say it because I live in the city and I'm fairly certain it was 2004.
Well, you would know better than me. So this is like a once in a decade event, Carl.
It is. And we've got a special plan for tonight's episode. So what we're going to do is the very second that Nick gave us his 3, 2, 1 countdown, we actually pressed play. Players are in the locker room right now, just about to head out onto the ice. So we're going to be watching first period of the game together. You'll be able to join us in that if you have it recorded. Great. But I think what's going to be nice is it'll give us a chance to talk about what just happened, what we're seeing on the ice. And really the easiest way for us to preview is to just talk about what we're seeing.
Yeah, I would also like to point out that this is the first time that my 3, 2, 1 countdown was ever a functional piece of this show.
But you know what? It's a long payoff, but it finally worked.
I knew this moment was coming, and I just wanted to plant that seed.
And you did a great job.
Thank you. You did too. We managed to sync up. Now we got some hockey to watch. I'm very excited for the Stanley Cup Finals.
Like more excited because a Canadian team is in it, or just...
I think it's just like the energy around the event is very exciting for me. I feel like the two teams, maybe there's some excitement about around Montreal because none of us expected them to be here. Tampa, I think Tampa was one of 2 or 3 teams that 80% of people at the start of the season were like, they're going to win the cup.
Yeah. They were my pick at the start of the playoffs to win the cup.
Yeah. I think mine was Colorado.
Yikes.
We don't have to go into that.
Yeah.
But so Tampa is they're here. We all expected them to be here.
Yeah.
Montreal, not so much. They had, I think, a bit of a harder road to get here, and they have continued to overperform.
Do you think that's interesting? I hadn't really thought about who had the more difficult road, but when I think of Toronto, Winnipeg, and Vegas, obviously Vegas was a very tough one. And then compare it to Florida, Carolina, and the Islanders. Tampa had a consistently difficult route to get here.
Yeah, but I think based on the talent level on both of these teams, it was a harder path for Montreal.
Well, any path would have been harder for Montreal then.
Yeah. They're the underdog. But okay, so Tampa faced Florida in the first round. Do you think it would have been easier or harder if Tampa Bay faced Toronto?
Oof. I mean, probably I'll call that one a draw.
Call that a draw. On paper, though, Toronto should be tougher to beat than Florida, but fair enough, we can call it a draw.
But it's Toronto. Like, I brought Toronto down because of what we've seen from them.
Because of the hindsight. Yeah. And that's fair. Okay. So what was Tampa's second round? Carolina. Carolina for sure.
Carolina. Hands down.
And then New York Islanders or Vegas?
And it's Vegas. Clearly.
So first round's a draw. So I guess this whole thing, they've had equally difficult paths to the Stanley Cup Finals is what we just decided.
Yes, we have.
Okay.
And you would probably give the slight edge to Montreal because you were skeptical of my Toronto pick.
I think Toronto is probably a harder team to play than Florida. They should be. I mean, they weren't, but they should be.
Right. everything being equal, that should have been the way that it was. And yet, here we are.
Yet here we are.
So any last thoughts as they're doing a player analysis? Any last thoughts on those series? Let's start with Vegas, Montreal. That one ended. That one didn't even get to it got close, but Vegas was not nearly as tight as I think we thought as we left last week's episode.
No, they weren't. I'm trying to replay now the last two games and where I was watching them. Vegas looked a little deflated, in my opinion, actually, in both games, now that I think about it. They didn't look like the better team. They didn't look like the best version of themselves. Well,
especially, game 5, they got stomped, right?
Yeah.
And that one was because I think when I think back to last week's episode and we talk about the fact that, you had asked me the question, did Montreal play, or was Vegas playing down to Montreal, or was Montreal playing up to Vegas? And then we left that episode and watched Montreal go out and win 4-1. And I thought, well, I was wrong about, I wasn't wrong necessarily about that first part, but Montreal definitely played up to Vegas in both of those last two games.
Yeah, they really did. And I, there's a lot of talk around Carey Price, and I actually don't know how much share of the credit Carey Price should get in winning that series. I think he's been great. He's been exactly where they needed him to be. But I think the team in front of him has done an admirable job of shutting down some of these powerhouse offenses that they've been facing.
I definitely agree, especially with what they did against Vegas. With what they were able to do, Max Pacioretty was on fire against Colorado. 1 point in that series. Mark Stone, 0 points in that series. Phillip Danault, I'm very interested to see what happens in these games in Tampa, and then when they head back to Montreal and they get those line matchups they want, who are they wanting to get him out against? Is it the Kucherov line? Is it the Stamkos line? Which one of those two are they really wanting to focus on?
It's a really good question. I actually thought Stamkos has cooled off a bit lately. I didn't think he was that impactful in the Islanders series, so I don't know if I would match him up there. But then on the other hand, Kucherov is very obviously injured. So, what percentage are we going to get of Kucherov? Do you want Danault on him? I don't know. It's a good question.
And Braden Point still has scored. I believe his scoring streak is still intact. Is it not 8 games in a row?
Don't think he scored in Game 7.
Ooh, sorry. Braden.
They put him on the ice for the empty net, but I don't think he scored.
Okay. Nonetheless, that is the guy to stop for Tampa right now. But they are an incredibly deep team. But Vegas was a very similar built lineup to what Tampa has. They don't have as many of the top star talent, but depth wise, very similar.
Yeah, but Vegas failed to adjust their game to the walls they kept hitting in Montreal. They just couldn't find a way through that defense.
And the Islanders are as good, if not better, than what Montreal is at setting up that defensive system. And Tampa figured that out, got past them.
Tampa got past them, and Tampa got past Carolina, who, maybe from a systems perspective isn't as strong as these two teams, but definitely has one of the better top 4 decors in the league.
Yeah.
So, I think Tampa can adjust their game to whatever they're seeing on the other end of the ice. And I think that's where Montreal is going to have a hard time in this series.
Yeah, I think we'll see a better showing from the other team than what we've seen for Montreal's opponents so far this year.
Yeah.
What it very intrigues me is officiating these playoffs has been under the light, and we've seen Montreal 30 and counting penalties killed in a row.
Yeah.
And Tampa has hands down the best power play in the league. And so how are they going to be able to, what's going to happen there, right? Are there even going to be penalties, or are the refs just going to put the whistles away? But when those show up, which one's going to win out?
Yeah, that's probably going to be one of the most interesting parts of the series, is seeing which of the special teams wins out once they're out there, and specifically the Tampa power play versus Montreal PK. I don't think there's anything too spectacular about the Montreal power play, but we do know that Tampa's not a great penalty killing team.
No, they're not. And Montreal on the flip side, I think they are, well, they are, because they haven't given up any goals, but they are currently positive. They have scored more shorthanded goals than they've given up power play goals when they're down this playoff. So
that's true.
You got to be ready for that on the Tampa side as well. This is a team that's definitely willing to take those chances, and they're not just going to get the puck and dump it in. So,
wow. I mean, they scored a shorthanded goal in Game 7 that I believe that it wasn't Game 7, right? And it went on to be the game winner.
Yeah.
Oh, that's rough for the Islanders.
It is.
I'm just realizing right now that single goal in that game was the shorthanded goal.
Yeah.
Man, and it came off a change. Wow.
So maybe Tampa's penalty kill's not as bad as we give it credit for.
Well, I mean, we have a whole season to evaluate here. They were not one of the best penalty kills in the league.
Okay, but maybe, I mean, much like most of Tampa, maybe they should take the power kill approach and just all offense all the time.
Maybe just go, 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 go. I don't know how much go, go, go you have left in you by the time the Stanley Cup Finals roll around, but it worked for them in Game 7.
You have to find some, right? Yeah. We have puck drop is just about to happen here. Got the tail of the tape on these goalies. With you thinking Carey Price wasn't the key factor, and that kind of the team in front of him was a game that you played earlier this playoff of who would win the Conn Smythe for each of these teams. Carey Price has to be the Conn Smythe winner if Montreal takes this. So
you think he's the favorite?
Who else?
He's definitely close to the top of that list. I don't know. They're really that's the weird thing about this Montreal team. There's not really been a single standout player.
No.
They've all contributed. They've all put in. I guess if you have to, put one name up, it would be Carey Price, right? Maybe Philip Deneau.
But have they ever handed out a Conn Smythe to like a non goals or points or save percent? Like, it's one of those things, right? That's gonna get you the win, not really good defensively.
Like, here, centerman, great defensive play this playoffs. Here's the MVP.
Yeah.
I don't remember ever seeing anything like that.
No. And I think the leading goal scorer in Montreal has 5 goals. It's not big. So
out of 15 games or something like that?
Yeah.
17 games?
Yeah. And then you got Braden Point, who has 11 on the other side. Like,
the Conn Smythe conversation in Tampa is a whole other topic, right? Like, if anything, it's the opposite. Like, here are all these names. How do you choose one?
So how do you choose? Well, who do you pick right now?
Probably Braden Point. I think it has to be Braden Point.
I would think so. And with that injury that Kucherov has from that last series, it seems unlikely that he's going to be catching.
Yes. Agreed.
And to me, it comes down to Point or Vasilevsky.
Right? That's kind of what I'm thinking too. Stamkos isn't really in the conversation for me. Hedman or Sergachev really either. I mean, they've all played great, but not at that next level that Braden Point seems to be at.
Yeah, I mean, we literally know from last year what it takes for Victor Hedman to win a Conn Smythe, and he hasn't been as dominant as he was last year.
Yep, absolutely.
Well, we've got...
is the Conn Smythe voted on, by the way, by the press the same way all the other awards are? I think there's a ballot where you put your 1, 2, 3.
But that's going to be real quick. And I
Yeah.
don't know if you've seen some of the press. They're not exactly like super tech savvy.
No, they're not. And if the ballot's in French, they better make sure there's some translations.
That was quite the. I mean, look, I think we can all listeners. This might be one of the very few things we can be unified on is our anti-Steve Simmons approach here.
That's like all hockey fans.
But that's quite the take for him to have this week.
I agree. I just like how I love the roasting that happens after.
And like by people who I also don't agree with. Like it's just the thing, like we can all just agree to not like Steve Simmons.
It's so true. I love it. Oh, that was great.
Yeah.
Anyways, we're 2 minutes into this game and there have been 2 shots on goal, one for each team.
And it definitely is a bit of a feel, you know, I'd say from what I've looked at, Tampa's done a better job having the puck in the zone, but Montreal's doing their thing where they like make it tough for you to actually get in, right?
Yeah.
And so neither team's set up so far. And
Carey Price feels to be a little quicker on his feet, a little more mobile than we're used to seeing. I'm sure he'll settle in, but he's been a few spots outside of the crease that we're not used to seeing him.
Like going out and playing the puck, you mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's fine with how few Tampa players have been in the zone. It's not like he's going to Marc-Andre Fleury the puck.
Carey Price should have earned everybody's trust by now. If he feels he can exit the net to play the puck, it's probably okay for him to exit the net and play the puck.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do feel like it's you know, picking your spots is a good choice there.
Yeah.
But
absolutely.
It is interesting. It is interesting to say that because like Carey Price, when you first said that, I was thinking like him like sliding too far in the net, and that's something that neither of these. I mean, of either of them, Vasilevsky would do it more, but both of these goalies are just so tight positionally.
Yeah, for sure. Vasilevsky, you're right, is definitely the one who's made the more kind of sprawling saves, the desperation dive across the crease saves, but they're few and far in between for him.
Absolutely, yeah. So one thing that happened today, we had Gary Bettman's annual Stanley Cup Final press conference. Did you see some of what he was talking about there?
I saw some of the headlines. I did. I didn't watch the press conference because I've seen enough of Gary Bettman's kitchen table.
This one was not. This was, I believe, he is in the building, and it does not look like he brought the kitchen table with him. Well,
that's a miss, Gary. That is a miss. No, I guess it makes sense. Like if you live in the U.S., you can just do stuff.
he can be there, yeah, and he is. Bill Daly was sitting beside him. Just a normal looking press conference. I believe there's media. Like there was media. It didn't feel like it was a Zoom press conference. Again, I did not watch it. I just saw some clips, read some quotes, but some interesting things there. One of them, he touched on officiating, and there was 2 things that he said which really piqued my interest. Thing number 1 is that he believes that of any sports league in the world, the NHL has the best officials.
Okay, but like we can talk about that, but what did you expect him to say? Now, we're second best to the NBA.
You don't have to say anything. You don't have, like, when you're asked about it, you don't have to say anything.
I think that with all the controversy that's happened around the officiating throughout these playoffs, and really it started before the playoffs. It started right before the playoffs with the whole Tom Wilson missed suspension, the fights, like that really, however much the officials were responsible for that really kind of kicked off the whole conversation around officiating. And then it continued through the playoffs. And it's always louder during the playoffs.
It always is. And right. And we saw this, but the thing that makes me question what he said even more is because he said that and then like turns around and makes a statement that shows that he's completely wrong. Because what he said is that the officials are told to call the game the same way from the start of the regular season through the playoffs, and that they have barely missed any calls throughout. If that's the case, if they're told to call it the same, and you think they haven't missed any calls, then maybe move the TV closer to your kitchen table.
I think as the commissioner of the league, he has to throw his support behind the officials. You know what I would love to see? At the end of every game, they parade the players out in front of the media to answer the question. They parade coaches out in front of the media to answer the questions. Why don't we put the refs in front of the mics? Ask them some questions about how they thought the game was going.
Absolutely.
Let's get some accountability going there. Then we don't get the blanket statement from Gary Bettman. Oh, everything's great and dandy and perfect, and I'm not worried about anything.
Because if you do have the best officials on the face of the earth who have only made a couple mistakes all playoffs, you have nothing to worry about parading them in front of the media, getting them out there answering questions, defending their calls.
The problem is we know that the officials, there have been, quote unquote sources talking from the officials' side saying, no, our job is to manage the game. We put the whistles away in overtime. This is all very obvious stuff. I don't know why they try to deny it or hide it anymore. We're watching the game.
And I know that you said that this started before the playoffs with the Tom Wilson thing. Let's take it back, a month before that in the Predators Red Wings game when we had Tim Peel. I believe that was right? That was the official?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Who literally said, on a hot mic, that it was a makeup call.
Yeah.
And that it shouldn't have been there, but he needed to call it. We have them on record saying that that's how they call games.
There needs to be some sort of reconciliation here with they need to be held accountable and be transparent about the kind of calls that they're making on the ice. Because this hiding behind the league thing is garbage.
Absolutely. I will say, though, we are approximately...
There it is. I thought your feed was ahead of mine. I thought you were going into the goal.
No, I was going to talk about the fact that we were 6 minutes into this game and there wasn't a penalty yet. Instead, we got ourselves Chernak.
Eric Chernak.
Back in the lineup, back in the score column.
Looked like a bit of a fluky goal, a little lucky.
A backhander, just top corner
from the hash marks.
Yeah,
against the boards. Oh, it was deflected.
Montreal deflected that because it went.
No, Palat threw it to the net, and Chernak got a stick on it.
Yeah,
redirecting it over Carey Price's glove.
I mean, I'm sure he tried to do that. If you asked him, he would say he tried to do that. But,
yeah, absolutely.
And good goal. Tough spot for Carey Price moving across the net like that with the guy in the middle trying to get that. Good goal for Tampa.
But that's how you have to score goals against this Canadiens team. You have to find ways to infiltrate the front of the net like that. And you just keep your stick on the ice and you reach for the puck.
Well, and what was different about that we don't see a lot of from Montreal was there was no one from the Habs in front of that net, right?
Yeah,
we didn't see someone sitting there to clear that out. So I think we'll probably see some changes there.
Oh, I'm sure they'll get the traffic.
That said, 30 seconds, 10 seconds after that, Brendan Gallagher's bulldog and Blake Coleman ripping his helmet off. Montreal knows what they need to be doing.
Oh, so it begins. This stuff like that makes me think this is going to be a rough one, and they're going to be. The thing with Tampa though is they're not just going to sit back and take it. They're going to fight back.
Well, they're a big team. You've got guys. I mean, you got a guy like Victor Hedman who can skate the way that he can and is 6'6". That's not a team that I would want to be upsetting.
Absolutely not. But Montreal's going to, and they're gonna get bruised up.
Yeah, they've got both teams will, right? I mean,
oh yeah,
there's gonna be some guys I know. Montreal's got to be going after Kucherov every time he's out there.
Oh, I'm sure they will. I'm sure. I haven't seen him on the ice yet. But I'm also talking to you.
I was like, yeah, there's a certain amount of not attention that's also happening. I would think that they would probably be showing him on the bench, just sitting there if he hadn't been out yet.
Wow.
So
I assume 8 minutes into the game, Nikita Kucherov has been on the ice.
Yeah. Well, now I'm focused and just waiting. Can we get a change here? Come on.
Seriously. No, we get Tyler Johnson instead.
That's what I was literally going to say. Poor Tyler Johnson.
So, Gary's presser. What else we got?
Olympics. Oh, well, I guess a whole collection of dates were announced. And this is the NHL said they want to go back to a normal schedule for next year.
Yeah.
And that's what he announced today. We have the Winter Classic is going to be held again.
New Year's Day.
Sorry, I just unmuted my TV here. Let me fix that. Yeah, so the Winter Classic's going to be happening on New Year's Day. All-Star Game in Vegas. We've got I'm
sure the players are going to love that one.
I'm sure no poor choices will be made there.
Something tells me Ovi will not be selected for the All-Star team this year.
Yeah. Winter Classic is in Minnesota, St. Louis, Minnesota there.
Yep.
The Stadium Series in February is actually going to be in Nashville.
Yep.
Between Tampa and the Predators, which seems it's a weird choice.
Like in location or in teams playing against each other?
I mean, we know the NHL is just playing with fire these days. We are just 1 or 2 years away. Yeah, we are 1 or 2 years away from them literally trying to play a game on the surface of the sun. It's going to happen.
I imagine their ice technicians or engineers, every time these announcements are made, just die a little inside.
Great. Nashville in February.
Tennessee.
Yeah.
Seriously.
All right. But they're playing in the football stadium there. So big venue for the NHL to get back out there. The draft. Not
really a rivalry though.
Well, that's what the team choice is a strange one.
Yeah. It's weird.
They've never, literally this year was the only year they've been in the same division. They've never met in the playoffs as far as I can recall. It just seems like the weirdest of choices. But here we are. We also have the draft is going to be in Montreal next year. So they're really getting all of those things with Montreal. I think maybe that was a stick tap to Montreal not being able to have full capacity while making it to the Stanley Cup Final. Give them another event to make some revenue back.
Yeah. Wait, which draft is this?
Next year's draft.
Gotcha.
And then he also mentioned the Olympics.
Ooh, tell me more.
Because they're supposed to be going to the Beijing Olympics next year.
In February. They've announced, the Stadium Series is announced. The All-Star Game is announced. There's dates for those. And they have to try to fit an Olympic trip in there somehow. And apparently not all the T's are crossed and the I's are dotted with that yet. So it is not, shockingly, not 100% that will be going to the Olympics. So normally when the NHL breaks for the Olympics, they don't do an All-Star game, correct?
Correct, yeah.
I guess it would be 4 years ago now, the Olympics were in, I can't even remember
Sochi.
Anymore. Sochi,
yeah.
And the NHL did not go.
Correct. Well, here, why don't we're going to put a pin in this. It is commercial time in the real game. We'll take a break here. We'll be back on the other side with the second half of the first period and the second half of the show.
Excellent.
Three, 2, 1.
And we're back. And we were talking about the Olympics. And we're just going to watch this replay of this goal here of Chernak the entire time. I didn't see who that Montreal defenseman was, but he played him pretty weak. That's not the Montreal defense we're used to seeing in this playoffs.
No, that's not the Montreal defense that can shut down every team they come across.
Yeah, that adjustment is going to be made very quickly. And there's Mark Bergevin looking very angry.
And not wearing his red suit. No wonder Montreal's losing, Mark.
Yeah. What is this guy even, like, what is he thinking coming to the rink in a non-red suit?
In a green suit? Like, sure, you look great, but is that really what you're going for?
He's probably still not wearing socks, though. So anyways.
I mean, it's summer. I haven't worn socks in days.
But when you wear a suit, do you wear socks?
Yes, but that's because I hate wearing like a proper shoe without a sock in it.
Yeah, me too. What is with this trend of people going barefoot in like dress shoes?
I don't know. It feels weird. Like if you get a little sweaty in your shoes, like everyone does, especially when you're wearing dress shoes, I need a sock in there, or else I'm just gonna slide around.
It just feels so sticky, like and icky and gross.
Yeah. I'm glad we're on the same page here.
Yeah, me too. We would never make it in the NHL.
This is one of several reasons why we are watching this game and not in the game.
Yes, exactly.
So
Olympics. So 4 years ago, they did not go. We know the players want to go. Like, this is a huge sticking point for them. They want to go. The league doesn't want to go. They don't want to shut down. They don't want to deal with player injuries. However, China is a huge opportunity market for this league. We know that that's true also because they've said so. I've always maintained, ever since they announced they were skipping Russia, that they'd be going to China. I think that the NHL is going to be a lot more open to collaboration with all parties to make it happen.
Yeah, you got to think that they will. One thing that I do find interesting, because we heard a few weeks ago that Kaprizov with the Wild was reportedly going back to Russia, and I wonder if the NHL is waiting to officially say no, so they don't have a bunch of players leaving to go back and play with their teams, get those contracts on lockdown for this year. And then if they are going to cancel it, say that after the fact.
Wait, hold on. Are you saying like players will walk out on the NHL in order to play in the Olympics?
No, I'm saying that they will, if they are a free agent and they can get a deal back home to go play, then they would just go sign back home. I'm not saying that they would walk out on an existing deal. I mean, maybe someone.
Yeah. No, but walk away from the NHL for this 1 year so they can play in the Olympics, and then
I would absolutely assume that there would be some level of player that would do that.
That is an amazing idea. Imagine Kaprizov just going and signing a 1 year contract with some team in Russia. He'd probably make a ton of money on that 1 year contract.
Yeah.
Play in the Olympics, and then the following year come back and see what team wants to sign you.
I mean, I'm sure that his rights will still be owned by the Wild, but then you just go sign with the Wild.
Sure. Go sign
right
with
back
the Wild.
with the Wild.
Wow, that's a great idea. I don't know if they're actually thinking of that, Carl, but you should write them. You should write some of these players.
I think I might just open my own agency.
So there's an idea too. Can you speak Russian?
No. And I know that because I tried to say no in Russian and didn't know what it was.
Isn't no just kind of like a universal word at this point, though?
I feel like most people know the word no, but that's also my English-centric bias. And so I probably shouldn't use that as my go-to.
But that's all you need for negotiations, so. Numbers are also a universal language. They put a number in front of you, you say no. They put a higher number in front of you, you say no. They put a higher number, you say yes. That's all you need to do.
I can write numbers.
You could be an agent in Russia, Carl. Don't doubt yourself.
All right, I'll stop selling myself short. Fourth line player management services. Here we come.
I love it. A division of the Fourth Line podcast.
Exactly. We've got Wayne's Dry Rub. We've got player agencies. We've got feet in so many buckets right now. All of them wearing socks in those buckets, though. So.
Absolutely. That's a non-negotiable. If any of our player clients want to not wear socks in their shoes, we cut them from our roster.
That's actually what we give them as like a signing bonus is like, oh, welcome to the team. Here's socks. Like, oh, I don't wear socks. Sorry, you're gone.
Here's 7 pairs of socks, one for every day of the week. I better not see you show up to the rink barefoot.
Yeah, I swear we will cut you loose so fast.
So do you think the players are going to end up at the Olympics?
I do.
I do too.
Yeah, I think the NHL will go because this was their, like, with all of the money and issues with COVID, this was their thing to get the players back and to make them happy, was to give them the Olympics.
Yeah, I agree. And I feel like I remember there being a thing last year too, where like at the 11th hour, the IHF was like, okay, fine, we'll pay the insurance. And it was just too late that the league couldn't make it happen.
Yeah. Yeah, that I agree. That does sound vaguely familiar.
Like and there's a legit like marketing benefit for the league this year. So I think I think it'll happen. They'll be over there.
Yeah. They touched on something that I have possibly never seen, and we have had multiple lockouts with Gary Bettman. This is one of the things that he looked so uncomfortable talking about. This Chicago Blackhawks allegations and investigation that we have going on. He was asked about that. He touched on it and said that the NHL is just going to let the investigative process take its place, and then we'll deal with ramifications after that takes place, which, I mean, seems like a reasonable way for the league to handle it, right? We won't punish people until we know about it, but in the court of judgment of us, this Blackhawks situation is not good.
No, it's very not good. It's very bad, actually. And you know what? I would also add that it's very bad how long this is taken to come into like just the general hockey conversation. And I don't mean the fact that, you know, this incident or these incidents happened 10 years ago. I mean that this was reported 2 weeks ago by, I think his name was Rick Westhead of TSN.
Yeah.
And it just kind of sat for 2 weeks. And I remember reading the article and thinking, why is not everybody talking about this? And finally now this week, you know, Sportsnet grabbed it, and I think some of their local media picked it up too. And it's being talked about now. It's a sticky situation for the league.
But
and the Blackhawks.
Definitely the Blackhawks. And it's something, I mean, if you haven't seen it, because as Nick, as you said, it was kind of buried. If you haven't seen it, what's happened, they haven't divulged too much for information. I think that's partially why a lot of people didn't want to run with it, because they did not actually have the sources that were saying this. But former Blackhawks player alleged sexual assault by a coach on the team. And this is a huge deal in any level of sport at any point. Not even sport, right? Like that's an unacceptable thing to have happen.
Yeah.
But sports has such a culture of burying it.
Yeah.
That's gotta go.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was, so I think it might have been a couple players, and it was a video coach or something.
Yeah.
And when they came forward to one of the assistant coaches, they brought it to management. Management had a meeting about it, and they decided not to act on it. This was in 2010 during the playoffs when all this happened. And I believe, you know, the team won the cup that year. And then I believe after all the Stanley Cup celebrations, they let that video coach go. So it is the definition of just burying something, letting it go away, and hoping it just never comes back to bite you.
Yeah. And yet here we are.
Yeah. And it's kind of scary because, you know, a lot of those executives are still running the team today.
And many of them are in other places, right? I mean, we see, I think what really kicked it off was the fact that Marc Bergevin, aforementioned suit wearer, was with the Blackhawks at the time in a scouting role, which isn't to say that he didn't know about it. It isn't to say he did. But he was asked, like, did you know anything? And he said no. And but like, it's so difficult when you have something covered up like this to really trust in what anyone says when they start denying things, because they literally were dishonest with it in the first place.
Yeah. Yeah. And now, like 10 years later, we're in the territory of, like this is kind of beyond the game at this point. It's in lawsuit mode and lawyers get involved. And, it's just the answer to everything is no, deny, don't admit, and that's kind of what we got from Bettman too. We got Gary Bettman, the lawyer, answering the questions.
Yeah.
Right. Like we're not going to get anything honest or authentic out of the guys at this point. The lawsuit's underway. We'll have to see what comes of it. I think, the more important thing is like, how does this change culturally for the game? Does it change anything?
It needs to. I think we'll see, depending on the penalties handed out by the courts, by the league, will really dictate how much of this does end. And honestly, in a way, with these players coming forward, maybe give some freedom and some ability for others who've had this difficulty and similar things happen to them to come forward with it.
That is exactly it. Is hopefully this is, this strengthens and empowers others to speak out for anything that they may have experienced or that they may have seen. Because what's most important is weeding all of this stuff out of here. And it's just disgusting.
It is. And what I would love, we're going to get back to the game in a second here. What I would love to see even more is like, not even the player it happened to, but like someone who knew about it brings it up.
Yeah.
Like, I knew about it. I didn't do anything, but I'm ready to fix that now.
Yes.
And
absolutely
make that happen. But two things with this game, since we've been talking about Gary Bettman. One, I have seen Nikita Kucherov on the ice.
Okay, good.
So he is playing tonight. Two, we got our first penalty of the game. Good call.
I don't remember seeing it because there seemed to be a lot of rough stuff and pushing in back and forth. So I'm not quite sure what the penalty was for.
It was the cross-check Gallagher when he like went down along the boards, cross-checking.
Oh, that's what it was.
Goodrow. Yeah.
Yeah. Gallagher looked angry about that. I mean, I don't know, man. Like we talked about officiating. Is this where you're going to draw the line? Just be consistent.
Yep. And this power play started for Montreal, and Tampa almost immediately had an odd man rush.
Yeah, I saw that too.
Wait, is it right? It says Montreal is the power play, but
yes, absolutely. And like they're doing a lot of cycling to the outside for a team that did not have a good penalty kill all year. Tampa's doing a pretty good job keeping them to the outside. Montreal's not getting much towards the net.
Well, and they're not even really trying to get to the center of the ice. Like there's no one there to do that.
That's true.
And like with who Tampa has on the ice, right? Like that top unit with Hedman out there, like that's the guy who can move folks out of the way, right? Then there's not a lot, especially on that top unit for Montreal. A lot of those guys just aren't at that place. I think in a few years, as we see some of these guys fill out and aren't like, Kotkaniemi, I think, could really become a big net front presence. But
oh yeah,
at his age, not yet.
No, he's definitely not there yet. The one thing I've noticed Tampa doing really well on this penalty kill, it's over now. They rush the neutral zone and they really kind of smother Montreal's speed and momentum through the neutral zone and force them to dump and chase, basically. It has changed, right? Like penalty or power play approaches has changed so much in these last like number of years, right? We see like so many more drop passes coming into the zone. What do you think is there like a best way to run a power play? I don't know. Personally, I hate the dump and chase. Like, why are you giving up the puck when you have possession of it just to get somebody else to go and fight for it? I don't love that. I'm also not a huge fan of the drop pass because the defending teams have now figured out how to just smother it. Like dropping it back to have one player skate with speed into the zone doesn't really work anymore.
No, it does seem, I mean, I get that you want to have your entire team there to be able to make that push, but if you can have your entire team moving forward, it seems like the next step that we need to be taking.
Yeah, I don't know. To me, the best things I see are like very quick, short passes just to gain the zone. Once you can gain the zone and get into the hash marks along the boards, you're golden. You have possession.
Yeah. If you can get it to that guy along the side and then start working it around, get it to the point, etc.
Yeah. But I don't know. I think the drop pass is losing its effectiveness a bit across the league.
I know it'll be interesting to see as it is, because it's taken a big jump up these last few years, right? Stealing the thunder from the dump and chase.
Oh man, everybody does the drop pass to the point where it's exhausting sometimes watching some teams because it's all they do. It's like the only move in their arsenal.
Well, and I get that you need to get the zone, but when you spend 10, 15, 20 seconds cycling in your own end on a power play, just to set up the drop pass, just get up there.
Yeah, I totally agree.
We've got another penalty call. This time, Nikita Kucherov, the victim.
I thought you were saying going to the box. No, you're right. He is the victim. You know, I noticed he seemed a little slower and sluggish in Game 7. Let's see what this penalty's for. Oh, a cross check to the face. Yeah, you can't do that.
I mean, I'm not even sure he didn't even hit him in the face. He hit him in the shoulder.
Attempted cross check to the face.
I failed cross check to the face. That shouldn't have been. I mean, with what we've seen this playoffs, he got called
for roughing. It's a roughing penalty.
That's a garbage call. With what we've seen this playoffs, that's weak.
The one angle looked bad, and then when you see it from the side, he barely even got him.
Which I believe that first angle was the angle that the official called it from. So at least we agreed with him, but you see it from both sides. And
well, yeah. So you think he legit thought he cross-checked him? Then why call the roughing call? This is a makeup call. Game management.
Oh my goodness.
Now let's watch this Tampa power play.
Let's see. We got
magic for
30 seconds left in this period.
Oh, setting up the Stamkos bomb. You got Kucherov.
And you got Killorn in front. That's the kind of stuff that nightmares are made of for a penalty killing team. Well, I know that Montreal is very good, but they've got a lot of they've got Point and Killorn in front of the net in the middle at different heights, and I'm not sure if they're going to let that happen all series. I'm not sure that that streak is going to continue.
Yeah, no, probably not. But they survived 30 seconds at least.
30 seconds. We've got intermission here, so we'll be taking a break from watching to see, and we won't be back for the rest of it. We're going to wrap up here, and during intermission, we'll wrap up the show and go back and watch the second and third periods here. Any general thoughts so far?
It definitely picked up as the period went along. I thought the level of intensity was raised. It's going to be an interesting physical series from a physical standpoint. I don't know. Based on what I saw for 20 minutes, Tampa looks like the better team. But this is one period in one game. Right. We've got at least 20. If it goes 7 games, we got at least 20 more of those. We didn't do a prediction on this series. Why don't we end with that? All right. I'm with you. I think Tampa looked better. I think that they will be the better team. I picked Tampa to win at the start of the playoffs. I still pick Tampa to win. I am picking Tampa in 5. In 5, hey? So you're giving 1 game to Montreal. See, I toyed with the idea of picking Montreal because all along I've picked against them and they keep winning. And now I got this little thing in my head. They keep beating better teams. Maybe they can beat Tampa. But when you look at the way that Tampa's constructed that team and how they faced their adversity so far, I can't. There's no way I can pick Montreal in this series. It's Tampa Bay. Now I've given Montreal 2 games, so I got Tampa in 6.
Tampa in 6. I got Tampa in 5, and it'll probably be Montreal in 5 or 6. with what we've seen this playoffs, they beat Vegas in 6 games, so they could easily beat, not easily, but there's a way that I could see them beating
absolutely Tampa. Because this is a stupid game that we watch that makes 0 sense.
It is, and when you have games with like a 1-0 game, a little shorthanded goal with a bad line change is all it takes to win a game and a series.
That's all it took.
So we've got lots of stuff happening. We'll be back. This will not be wrapped up unless, game 4? No, they've got these more spaced out. I know the last 2 series have both been every other day, but they have some series or some games with 2 days off in between.
Because there's holidays this weekend.
Is that why they did that?
Canada Day's on Thursday and July 4th is on Sunday, I think.
And so they scheduled it to not have those?
Avoid those days, I believe.
So that's right. So that's why we've got so what would have been July 4th, that game's been moved to Monday. So next Monday will be game 4 of this series. So we will be back doing probably this again. I had a lot of fun watching the game together. I hope that the listeners enjoyed hanging out and watching it as well.
Yeah, that's what I enjoyed this a lot personally.
So we'll be back next week, game 4 next Monday. So we've got Wednesday and Friday this week. Take a break on the weekend because everyone's off celebrating. And then Monday, Wednesday, Friday next week, finishing it up. Game 7 would be Sunday, July 11th.
You know, the Canadiens haven't played on a Saturday night all playoffs.
Seriously.
Or at least there's a weird stat. It might be the first round they may have, but they haven't played on a Saturday night in a very long time.
I'm looking now. They beat the Leafs on a Saturday.
Okay, that may be the last time.
They played 2 games against the Leafs on Saturday. You know what my stat was? You know the last time Montreal beat the Tampa Bay Lightning?
No.
April 2nd, 2019.
Wow. That's a good stat.
Because they didn't play them at all this year.
Of course.
And they went winless against Tampa the previous year. I think they managed to still play them, I think, 4 times, at least 3 or 4 times that previous year. The
they would have been in the same
one.
division.
Yeah. And Montreal 1-0. So.
Well, that's when they weren't good. Now they're good again, apparently.
It's a different, that's when we had bad carry price. Now we got good carry price. It's totally fine. Tune in next week. We'll be back doing this. You can find more about the show at thefourthlinepodcast.com. You can head on over to Twitter, join on with us. When we're watching games, you can find us at Fourth Line Podcast with the number 4. And over there, you can play high-low sticking with us, where we post the over-under for each game, and you pick if the goal total will be over or under. With what you know now, with it being 1-0 after 1, the over-under for this game was 5, Nick. Do you think it's going to be over or under this?
For this game, it'll be under.
I think we're going to get a lot of unders in this series.
I think so, too.
There we go. So tune into there. Congrats to everyone who's been winning. We had 3 that were a push in a row, so that it went exactly the line. So Brody has been picking pushes all year. He was very happy, man. You can tune in there. Mail at thefourthlinepodcast.com if you want to send us something a little bit longer. And until next week.
Time for us to wrap up another Fourth Line show. I know what you're thinking. You don't want us to go. Don't take a penalty against Tampa Bay. 'Cause if you do, they might have a better rhyme than May.